All right, well, thanks everyone for sitting in on this webinar today. My name is Nate Erickson, and I'm very excited to be here. This is something that has turned into something I had very little information or expertise on, but it's quickly turned into a passion project that I think a lot of people could replicate, and I think that it is something that many of our communities would benefit from. So I'm really excited to be here today. Um, my working background, I've kind of done a little bit of everything. I went from college to being a butcher to being a radio guy to working working for a college, then to the Salvation Army, and there are some Salvation Army things in here, and that's really my tie to AHA process and getting ahead. But since I was able to last give this presentation, I have moved on to a new position with the University of Minnesota Extension Office. So I've kind of done it all and worked with all different backgrounds of folks, and really all of those job changes have really led me to believing that this work that my friends and I are doing is some of the most vital and important work that is going on in our community. I don't want to toot my own horn. I probably will sound like that a few times, but this is really something that I think is really cool. So I'm excited that you're here, and I'm excited to share all of this with you here today. So here's a quick look at what to expect throughout the next 40 to 45 minutes with me. Again, the introduction there. My name is Nate. Feel free, and I have a slide at the end here. Feel free to email me at any time, Facebook me, or anything like that. And if you have questions, or if you have any way that any ideas that you want to share, or any ways that you want to partner, I would love to hear them. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. So with that, let's just dive right in here. And before I can share with you exactly what our project is called, or what my project is all about, I want to give you a little bit of a background of what our region and what our area looks like here in western, well, I guess it would be west central Minnesota. I'm from a town called Wilmer. So if you want to throw that up on your Google machine, go ahead. Here we go. So the region that I live in a county called Ojai County. As you can see there, the population is it's probably a little bit different now, but right around 42,000 people. But the number here on this slide that I think is interesting is the poverty rate of the county is 11.3%, and actually that rate is a little bit higher than what this number shows. This is from the last census, and since the last census, there have been a lot more foreign-born people moving into Ojai County. Wilmer is a very diverse, or I should say, Ojai County is a very diverse county, and the city that I live in is a city called Wilmer, and Wilmer is really what makes up most of the foreign-born or the immigrant population for Ojai County. This is kind of the central hub for everything going on. So as you can see, Wilmer population, I believe it's actually over 20,000 now. Graduation rate is pretty high. I think that's an incredible number, and something that Wilmer should be more excited and proud of to be sharing with people. But again, you take a look at that poverty rate down there at the bottom, and the poverty rate here in Wilmer is between 17.3%, and I've seen some numbers of up to 20%. So it's not a great stat to have when your county is it finds itself at 11% population, the population in poverty, and then you go over here and look that Wilmer makes up about 20% of that. That's a pretty staggering number. So Wilmer has its share of problems. Overall, I think Wilmer is a really great, accepting community, but it does have its share of problems. And one of those things that my friends and I have started to focus in on is that Wilmer finds itself in a food desert. So you can see the definition there. It's parts of the country that are vapid in fresh fruit, vegetables, and other healthful whole foods, usually found in impoverished areas. So in Wilmer, you'll see a map here coming up that Wilmer is in a very, very, I would say that one of the driest. It's a super dry city when it comes to food deserts, as there are not a lot of places that you can find fresh fruits and vegetables that are located within range of your home. So it's interesting to think about this because Wilmer and Candy Ojai County fall in central Minnesota, and we're kind of like the cutoff line from heavy agricultural country. So there are a lot of producers to the west of us, but most of those producers are now more it's more market beef, and the dairy industry is starting to die out a little bit here. So it's really all of these mass companies that are kind of taking over the food industry to the west. So there's not much local food going on or being grown agriculturally out here in Candy Ojai County or to the west. So if you take a look here at the map, the entire United States, you can see all of that purple there would tell you that you're living in a food desert. So find yourself on the map there, and it's there's a chance that you are experiencing something like a food desert in your community, and if not in your community, it's probably right next door, or there are parts of your community that would be experiencing a food desert, which is what Wilmer is experiencing. Here's some more information about food deserts. 15.6 million, or 12% of households, were food insecure in 2016, and that's throughout the entire United States. 4.9 million households were designated as having very low food security. Security. Very low food security means that a family is eating a reduced amount of food, or eating patterns are disrupted on a regular basis. So most of you in here might have a little bit of a background. Hopefully you have a little background with the AHA process and getting ahead, and the other curriculum that AHA process offers. But if you don't know, a lot of folks, that would be due to the poverty that they are experiencing in their communities. You can read the rest of that, and that is just some heavy data that we think is very important for people just to get an idea of, because really, as with most things, if you don't see it, you don't know that it's happening. So moving on here, taking a look at myself specifically, taking more closer look at Minnesota, you'll see the two different color distinctions on these maps. On the left side, you'll see the low access portion, and on the right side, you'll see it's low access and low income. So the pink on the left-hand side is the same pink on the right map, and then the low access is the light purple color there. So when we're talking about low access, that means you're having to travel to get to a grocery store. You're not able to easily access food to be able to get it to your family. And I'm not sure if the definition pops up here again later, but the definition that we operate under as MNyou, and it's actually offered by the USDA, is that in general, you're considered to be low access if you have to travel over 1 mile to get to a grocery store in an urban setting. And I want to say it's like 20 miles if it's in a more, if you're outside of town or you're living in the country. So the definitions are a little bit different here. The one that we focus on is the urban in town definition. So let's take a look here at Wilmer specifically, and the data here is or the maps here are pretty interesting. On the left-hand side this time, you'll see the low income and the low access, and on the right side, you'll see low access. So the majority of Wilmer, you'll see, especially on the right-hand side, and maybe I can put my mouse here to show you that right here, this is a highway called Highway 12. And the highway here, Highway 12, it's just a pass-through highway. So it's highly trafficked. People are just coming through the city, and it's actually on the northern side of the town. On this part of town, this is where the majority of things are happening. So this is where all of the grocery stores are. This is There's nothing out here. This is where I work now at the county building. There is an old mental health hospital here that is now a technology campus, and there are a couple of mobile home parks and a trailer park out here as well. So down here, this is the town center where like Target, Walmart, Cashwise, Cub Foods, this is where everybody is. This is where the action's happening. So you'll see on this map then where the low income and low access, as I mentioned, there are trailer parks, mobile home courts. There are people living out here. It's more residential, whereas this is where it all is. So a large portion of our population is living out here and having to travel into town to get to the food that they need for their families. So it's a really weird setup here. And I know that on this side of town, and I'm not a lifelong Wilmer resident, but from the grumblings that I've heard, because we've had some kickback about whether or not Wilmer is actually a food desert. People don't want to admit it, but the data shows it is. But I have heard that there have been a number of grocery stores that were out here in the past. So back in the 60s and 70s, there were grocery stores out here. And then whatever reason it was, because of Highway 12, or if it was because the railroad is also along Highway 12, if that was kind of a driver for those businesses to move out. So moving on here, you'll take a look. Here's some more Wilmer data. 14.2% of residents do not have access to a vehicle and live more than a half of a mile from a supermarket. 20% of Candy, Ohio residents have low access to a store. And it's just the reality, really, of living in rural Minnesota. There are a lot of cities along all of these main highways and these long corridors. However, a lot of these cities are really, really small and don't have their own grocery store. So you are looking at traveling 15, 20, 25 miles to get to a grocery store in some instances. And I did want to mention here too that in Wilmer, we don't have great public transportation. We do have one single bus that goes around, and I've never ridden on it, but during my time at the Salvation Army, we would give people tokens and bus passes to ride the bus, and they would always kind of they wouldn't turn them away because they need them, but they were hesitant to take them because they were worried that it takes an hour and a half to get somewhere in a town that is probably only it's only like 3 miles long, and I'm not sure the width, but it's not a big town, so an hour and a half to get somewhere is crazy. You could definitely bike it, but Minnesota winters are a real thing, so people are not wanting to be taking their bikes in the dead of winter. So moving on here, here's a little reality of what it is, the distance to some grocery stores in town. So all of these apartments here, or you'll see the college at the bottom, these are the heavily lived areas for folks in the Wilmer community. So you'll see that some people have to travel almost 4 miles to get to Walmart. And I used Walmart because Walmart is generally where everyone shops here in Wilmer, because they have a little bit of everything. It's assumed that their prices are lower, although there have been studies done that the other grocery stores in our area are similarly priced as well. But that is where pretty much everybody shops. That's where a lot of the folks in town that are experiencing low income and low access, that's also where they work. So they go back to work to get their food. And the college too, that's a staggering thing. There's very little student housing in Wilmer, so the students are kind of dispersed throughout the community. And but if they are out on the college campus, it's a 5 mile hike to get to a grocery store. So the college has really been proactive lately about offering free meals for their students and trying to lower their prices with their catering company that they work with right on site. So that just gives you an idea of how far it is for people in our community to get to a grocery store. And the next thing I wanted to talk a little bit about, about what Wilmer actually is something called a food swamp. And it is exactly what it sounds like. Something that is made up of food that is not generally great for you and doesn't offer a lot of healthy options for people to eat at an affordable price. So this is just these are all the restaurants that you would see driving down First Street, the main street here in Wilmer. We have it all, and I think I missed a couple here as well. We have an Arby's, which is my favorite. We have places like Applebee's and things like that as well. But these are all kind of like the fast food or the quick hitters that people generally use. And I don't know about you, but I grew up in poverty when I was a kid, and that's really what helps drive my work. And I'll talk about this a little bit later. But if I didn't have a Holiday gas station near me when I was a kid, I would have I don't know what I would have eaten because I grew up on gas station hot dogs and brats and gas station food. So while these food swamps are not ideal for our communities, there there is obvious value in them because they are able to provide you with some kind of nourishment. I did want to mention too that in Wilmer, this food swamp, so First Street in Wilmer is lined with all of these. As you're driving down First Street, these are the first things you see. You have to go deeper into a couple of blocks in Wilmer to get access to our grocery stores. And the grocery stores in Wilmer are kind of on a 4 block section of the city. So they're all right next to each other and they're all kind of kitty corner from each other. So we have an Aldi's, we have Cashwise and Cub Foods, which are right next to each other, and a Walmart. So the I don't know who planned it out, but that's just how it's laid out right now with every single one of our grocery stores right next to one another here in town. So you really do have to go deep into the business district to get any kind of groceries. Here's some things that are probably I don't know, if you start thinking about food swamps and what that means to people's health and not having access to the fresh vegetables and fruits and vegetables that they need and deserve, you can imagine that there's going to be some impacts on people's health. So things like obesity, chronic diseases like diabetes, high blood sugar, a bad liver, metabolic disease. So there's a lot of things here that chronic disease wise that are not ideal for people's health in living in communities like these. And then obviously the lowered fruit and vegetable intake. The next thing, obesity. You can see that there is a positive correlation between the distance to the store and the higher likelihood of obesity. So that's saying that if you live further away from a grocery store, the the more likely you are to be obese. So I think about it for myself. I'm not the thinnest person on the planet, but there was a time in my life where I was living very far away from a grocery store. I was living 20 miles from a grocery store. And when I would go get groceries, not only would I get groceries, but I would stop and I would get something at McDonald's or something at Pizza Ranch every time I would go to town because hey, it's a little bit of a travel vacation thing for me. So I would travel and it makes sense then that the correlation would exist. Low income individuals and families have higher body mass indexes than those not living in food deserts. So that's unfortunate there for the low income individuals, as if they were not living in a food desert, they might have, and of course, this is not a guarantee, but they might experience some higher body mass indexes. And then for every additional mile to the grocery store, the odds of being obese increased by 5%. So that's a really scary statistic right there, that it's every single mile you increase your chance of being overweight or obese by 5%. Other diseases you can experience: kidney disease, a 40% higher chance of having kidney disease, higher incidence of hypertension and diabetes, which America is suffering heavily from right now. A lot of people, those are a couple of the leading causes of death here in the United States. So taking a look here at the fruit and vegetable intake as well, lower levels of serum, oh my gosh, carotenoids. I've practiced that a few times and I still have not been able to find it. And then of course, it's a lot of self-reporting that the people were self-reporting that they have less fruits and vegetables in their home. Some contributing factors, and these are the two pieces that my group, which we're about to get to the really fun stuff here in just a minute. But contributing factors are price and access. So if you take a look here, eating healthy versus price, on average, it costs $1.50 more per day to eat a healthy diet of fruits, vegetables, fish, nuts versus processed food. And when you think about $1.50, I don't know, that doesn't seem a lot when you hear $1.50, but when you add that up, that gets to be quite expensive. And you'll see here, $550 per person per year to have a healthy diet. And that gets to be a lot with a lot of families that have numerous children or have grandma and grandpa living with them or aunts and uncles, whatever their home might look like. Taking a look here at what a meal at Burger King costs, you can go there, and I know that their prices have changed in McDonald's. Everybody's prices have changed a little bit, and I know things are getting more expensive, but the traditional dollar menu items, you can see a hamburger, $1, chicken nuggets, $1.19, and then I think one of the worst things that you can get on the menu, but it's my favorite, the fountain drink for $1.29. That's where all of the sugar and carbs are loaded up in. So taking a look here at some price, lower priced grocery stores market and display more unhealthy food than higher priced grocery stores. A correlation between obesity and price at the grocery store, and higher the price in a grocery store, the lower the incidence of obesity in those shoppers. So when you think about the stores that you go into and you think about what's on the end caps, and the end caps are just the ends of the aisle when you're walking by, and I'll use Walmart for example. When you walk into a Walmart and you're walking down the aisle looking for which aisle you need to get into to find, let's say, bread, you have to walk by a whole bunch of junk food before you get into that actual aisle, because that is what is being marketed to you on those end caps. And of course they have, it's not all junk food, there are different things on them, but you see heavily in those aisles cookies, crackers, soda, all those things that might catch your kids' attention as you're taking them down the aisle. Access, the other part here, the correlation between the distance to a grocery store and obesity, that's really the key takeaway here. I think that's really what we want to really hit home with, is that for every additional mile to the grocery store, the odds of being obese increased by 5%. So to me, that's really scary. I hope for you it's scary as well, and that hopefully we can start making some changes to help people not have to experience that or go down that route. And we're about to get to all of that. And I wanted to throw this slide in here before talking about our actual program, because I think it's vital. And as we're going through, you will be able to see examples of all of these things. If you think back to Getting Ahead or jumping back into a Getting Ahead workbook, resources, all of the resources are interconnected. So everything that we do in our program, we can see examples of all of these things, and they all kind of build off one another. So as we go through, I'm not going to talk about all of them, but you'll be able to see where all of these might be able to cross into one another, because we intentionally sat down and tried to include all of these 11 resources from Getting Ahead into our program. And then there's a couple of pictures of some of the kids that we work with, and Yeah, these kids are lucky enough to be standing right in front of a huge pile of compost. But it's, if you know what compost is, it's not something you want to be smelling or standing around. So here we go. What is MNyou? And I was just thinking about this as I was going through those earlier slides. And I always like to tell people that those early slides, those are for my partner, Ben. My partner, Ben, he went to college. He's a social worker. He's working on getting his master's in social work. So this was a huge part of his work as an undergrad, trying to figure out what food deserts are, how to address food deserts, and how to make life better for everyone in the community. So I like to say he likes to do all of the boring things, and I have to include those things. This is for me. This is where I come in. This is where I really thrive. So MNyou is a really great program, and I think the best way to tell you about it is to share a video with you that we were lucky enough to have offered to be created for us by our local PBS station here in Minnesota. It's actually based out of a town called Appleton, Minnesota. And we were lucky enough that they offered to do a video for us. And so this is really the best way to give you an introduction into what MNyou is.
The program that we are running now and have founded and turned into a nonprofit is called the MNyou Youth Garden. And what the MNyou Youth Garden is, it's a plot of land and greenhouse originally that is lended to us through the Midwest Tech Campus in Willmar. We originally were given 4 acres of land and a greenhouse that was built in the 1970s to utilize to grow fresh fruits and vegetables that were not commonly found in Minnesota, with the intent of serving underrepresented populations in the Willmar community to provide them with fresh fruits and vegetables that they might not be able to get in Minnesota, but they were used to getting at home. The overall goal is to provide youth in the community with some jobs and to give them an opportunity to do some work that might be a little more artistic or help them work with their hands a little bit more. Instead of sitting in the house playing with their phones or looking at a screen, they get outside, get involved in the dirt, and start to produce for the family members in their household, and then also provide for themselves and hopefully give a little knowledge about eating healthy, making sure that they live healthy, sustainable lives, and then give them some entrepreneurial experience as well. It started out with just a youth garden. The goal was to utilize all 4 acres of the land that the Midwest Tech Campus was providing for us. Myself, Ben Larson, and Abdueli Youssef, we quickly found out that because none of us know anything about gardening, we were in some trouble. So we had to downsize early, and we ended up using 1 acre of land and then putting the greenhouse to use. We grew things like bitter balls and watermelon and a lot of common things that were found in Minnesota, but we tried to spread it out to find some more diverse plants and vegetables. And we found out that Minnesota doesn't have a great climate for growing bitter balls or other vegetables that are not common to Minnesota, so there was a very good reason why they weren't being grown outside. What we're doing now is we have a full season, all year round CSA program. And what a CSA is, it's a community supported agriculture program where the goal is to get vegetables in the hands of seniors, people that don't have a lot of money, people that come from all different backgrounds. We're trying to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to have some fresh fruits and vegetables. So we're trying to really address access and price. And by running our CSA the way we are, we're going to be able to address both of those things at the same time. So the way that we're doing it this year is that We are offering CSA at a discounted price to people that can afford it. And every person that subscribes or becomes a member, we then give a free CSA bag with the same amount of vegetables, same amount of everything to somebody receiving SNAP benefits or senior citizens. We're hoping that people in the community that can afford it will see that this initiative will have a massive impact on the overall community by not only giving their families fresh fruits and vegetables, but also giving another family that might not have that access or have the money to do so. Hopefully they can see the value in doing that. Working with the youth of the community has been incredible. We never thought we would have as much interest in our program as we have had. We partner with a couple of organizations in town, one of them Central Minnesota Jobs and Training, the Dream Academy, Wilmer Public Schools, and the ALC in town. Everything always comes back to the youth for us. So while we have a lot of great volunteers, it's not really anything if we don't have any youth. It's been incredible that the youth are interested. The journey that this has taken my life on is a journey that I honestly never thought I would ever be doing. I have no experience, or I had no experience with gardening, really anything with agriculture before starting this program. But my passion is to enrich the lives of youth and help make sure that people that are underrepresented in our communities have the same opportunities that I had growing up. I really wanted to make it so that the youth are really able to do anything. I want to instill that in them as a core part of themselves. It really has taken me on a journey that I never expected. I went from being a butcher to a radio guy to now I'm working in my free time in a garden setting, in a greenhouse. This couldn't have impacted my life any more than it has, or any more positively than it already has. Like, this is the greatest experience that I've ever had. The youth are incredible. The Wilmer community overall is such a giving, caring community. They've embraced us with open arms, and they really have just let us run wild with whatever we come up with next.
Visit pioneer.org/postcards to catch up on missed episodes and to find out more about your favorite segments. Postcards is made possible by the Minnesota
All right, so as you can see from that video, the MNyou Youth Garden, or MNyou, it's I came up with that, so I want to give myself a little props here for it. We live in Minnesota, and we are trying to change what people put on their family's dinner menu. So we tried to make it a play on the words there. So MNyou is a plot of land and greenhouse that grows exotic fruits and vegetables not commonly found in Minnesota. And the way that we do that is we hire 30 youth to manage all aspects of the business. So first part there, And in the video, I did mention literally only one exotic fruit that we were growing. I totally had a brain fart that day, but we started out growing bitter balls and kittley. Those were the two vegetables that we decided to grow because they're very popular with the Somali population that we have here in Wilmer. A lot of folks were talking about them, but as soon as we started growing them, it turned out that they didn't actually want them or wanted to use them. So we grew all of these very expensive seeds, and we had way too many, and they all kind of went to waste. So it was a bummer there, but we learned a quick lesson on including other voices and trying to make sure that we're growing what people want. So again, it's a plot of land and greenhouse that was actually just given to us to utilize. It's right to the north side of town. Again, 30 youth, like I had mentioned, are hired, and we're lucky enough that there's a company or an organization in our community called Central Minnesota Jobs and Training, and they're based out of our community college, Ridgewater College. And what they do is they come in and they actually work with organizations like ours to hire youth who are underserved or are experiencing some form of hardship. So most of the kids that we work with fit the definition by being low income or by being an immigrant in the Wilmer community. So we've been able to utilize that organization, and they pay the youth wages, and they're able to cover 30 youth's wages. So it was really an incredible start for our program. The youth that we work with are age 15 to 24, and our goal is to make it a more well-rounded program so that kids aren't just coming, picking weeds or planting vegetables or planting plants and taking care of them. The goal for us is to have them interact with local business owners that, well, for the Somali population that we work with, we want them to be exposed to business owners that look and sound just like them so that they're able to build that kind of entrepreneurial spirit within themselves. And then we also wanted to show that, hey, look, we know that Wilmer is in rural Minnesota, and as you go further west, this is kind of it. But we want to let people know that there are opportunities in our own community for job opportunities. So we really wanted to instill that value in the kids that, hey, you don't have to leave the community to do the things that you would like to do. And then we set up weekly classroom and education meetups and monthly speakers. So those speakers are those business people that we were talking about. They were local extension educators coming in and talking about how to prepare meals. And then there were myself, Ben, and then Abdweli, who you see here in the pictures here on this slide. Here's some pictures of the kids in action. Here's an example of this is someone they refer to. They were referring to her as like Grandma Nancy. She was just like, she's an incredible woman. She's the reason that we've made it as far as we have with this program. We came in not knowing anything about gardening or vegetables or how to do any of it, and she really lit the fire in us to learn these things, and also she was a great teacher. Here you can see one of our monthly meetups where we were getting together. We were enjoying some food together and getting to know one another, because that was another part that we thought was important, was to build some kind of social capital amongst the youth so that it doesn't feel as much like an us versus them type feeling. So we wanted to build that social capital within our group so that they would feel more confident and comfortable building social capital in the community at large. And on this side, you can see all of our kids here transplanting some of our vegetables. I can't tell what those are, but I assume they're tomatoes because we planted way too many in our first year. Here's some of the successes from our first year as MNyou. The vegetables grew. We had incredible youth involvement. Not only did we have 30 youth working for us, but those youth, they went and told their friends, hey, you should come with me to work today. they won't care. My bosses won't care that you guys come with. So the youth were involved, and maybe even a little bit too involved, because they continued to bring more and more kids every week. So there were times when we had 40 to 45 kids working out in the garden with us. And I don't know, it was really, really fun while we were out there. We had great community support in our first year. And I don't know, I'll show you a list of all of our funders later, but we had great community support financially, but then also people just being interested in what we're doing, and excited that three young guys are coming together to put together a program that would benefit our entire community. And then you can see there the funder buy-in. I'll explain it later, but in starting this program, none of us knew how to write grants, but then we started writing grants and just trying to do it. And now we feel like we are grant experts and could write professional grants, because it felt like it was almost too easy. People were so excited about our program that it made the the lack of technical grant writing okay with a lot of the funders that we work with. So showing that passion, showing that drive really helped the funders buy into what we were doing. So again, this is all things that were going on in our first year. We're actually in year 3, and I'll talk to you more about year 3, what's going on here in a couple slides. But I think it's important to talk about also some of the challenges that we experienced in our first year, and why we have changed to what we have today. So some of the challenges: delayed gratification. You plant a seed, you got to wait for it all summer long, or wait until the fall to see any kind of vegetables growing. So the kids, delayed gratification, that was really hard to get the kids to keep that buy-in and stay excited all summer long. The market schedule was hard too. We really wanted to be a part of the farmers markets, because we wanted kids to run a farmers market booth so that they would be able to get exposure to people in the community, other vegetable or business owners that were at the market as well. But the markets were start at 6:30 in the morning on a Saturday morning, and that's not what kids want to be doing during the summer. So that was really, really hard for us to figure out and get kids motivated to go. Then they also have one on Wednesdays that starts at noon. So that one was a little more realistic. Obviously, the garden upkeep, where the weeding and taking care of everything got to be a problem after a while. Racist citizens, and we didn't experience it that much, but the gentleman pictured here, it was a really, really bad day. You'll see here this picture of him in his wheelchair flipping the bird. That day was one of the worst days, and actually completely changed the path that we were going on. We were at the market on a Saturday morning, and we had 2 Somali youth working the booth, and Abdweli, one of our co-founders, was there as well. They were all working the booth, and they had said that everything had been going well. Ben and I were out of town. We were, I don't know what we were doing, but we just were out of town, not close. We got a phone call at around 10 a.m. that somebody had just come by our booth and came by the booth and threw a frozen pig's foot onto our vegetable table, and it came in contact with all of our vegetables, and he was throwing out profanities about the Prophet Muhammad, and he just drove off on his electric wheelchair, and nobody knew what to do. Everybody was kind of in a panic. Luckily, nobody reacted violently or in a bad way or in a negative way. Abdweli handled it incredibly well, but that was one of the most disgusting things and disgusting acts to this day that I have ever been had to think about or had to deal with, and I cannot imagine what it was like for our youth being there that day as well. So we had to deal with some of that. And we decided on that day that we would never, ever, ever again let our kids be exposed to something like this. And we'll get into that here in a little bit. But sustainability, that was another piece. We were just growing vegetables to sell at the market. you don't really make a lot of money at the market unless you're able to sell out every single week, which we got close to doing because we were growing some different things like ghost peppers, which people really, really like, heirloom tomatoes, and things like that. So sustainability, that became an issue for us, and we didn't want to. We like what we're doing, so we didn't want to see this program fall through. Here's some of the outcomes that we had from year one. We believe that we have a stronger entrepreneurial base because we have a lot of kids that were constantly think of different ways to do something or different businesses that they could start for themselves. And then we created jobs for underrepresented youth in our community. We authentically represent the diversity of the community by creating those jobs for the underrepresented youth. Because of what we were doing, the community had better access to fresh veggies. Whatever we didn't sell, we sent home with the kids. So the kids were able to take all the vegetables home and give them to their families. And we grew a lot. So they got it. We dropped it off with a few other places in town just to give it out for free. We didn't we're not doing this for the money. We're doing this to better our community. So we thought that the community had better access to fresh veggies, and then we empowered youth to explore different collegiate programs. And that's an interesting story here because we actually had two kids that went off to college, and one of them was going to get a degree in art, and then another, he didn't really know what he wanted to do, but they both went to school, got halfway through their semester, and then decided, because of the work that they were doing with us and how much they enjoyed it, they both switched their majors to become environmental scientists. So they're both working on their degrees still to this day, and it's just it was incredible that we were able to have that big of an impact on some of the kids that early on in the program that we were doing. So myself, Abdweli, and Ben, we all got together and we talked about all of the things that happened in year 1 and 2 and how we wanted to make sure that none of the bad things happened again, and how we could make this program even better and increase the reach to connect with more people as well. So what we came up with was a CSA program. And if you don't know what a CSA program, it's a community supported agriculture program where it gives people direct access to quality fresh produce grown locally. And so what that means is that you'll see here how the supermarket works, how the farmer's market works, and then how a local CSA works. So we literally grow vegetables, put them in a box, and then get them to you and your family. CSAs generally cost between $450, $600. We've seen some that are like $800. It all kind of depends on what they have and where they are, I guess, to what they are charging. And they usually include between 7 and 10 types of vegetables. So that's just what a CSA is in general. When it comes to the MNyou CSA program, what we decided to come up with is something called the Buy One, Give One CSA initiative, where if you think of the program like Tom's Shoes, where when you buy a pair of shoes, they donate some shoes to a kid in a different country. That's the same idea that we have here. However, we want to benefit the people that are living directly in our community. So what we did was we reached out to individuals to become subscribers, where they would purchase their share. And in the first year, their shares cost $625. That's a full share, which they receive for 18 to 20 weeks. And with every subscriber purchase that we had, we gave a box for free to somebody in the community that was experiencing low access and low income. And we also worked with our local healthcare provider to accomplish this, Caris Health. They were able to come up with folks that were also experiencing some health issues. So we worked a lot with their folks that are involved in, they have some programming for cardiac patients, their diabetic patients. So it was a good mix, but they were able to add a box onto their already existing survey or intake form and say, hey, do you identify as either of these? If yes, would you be interested in receiving a free box? So that's what we did. We got a list from them, and in our first year, we had 60 subscribers, and so we were able to give out 60 free boxes and then some because we grew way too much. That's one thing about us is that whatever it is, we have this idea, and unfortunately, we have to learn the hard way because didn't do a lot of planning, um, like all of the hardcore planning that you need to make sure that you're not overgrowing or underproducing. We did the underproducing piece, but we didn't think about the overproducing. But we figured it's a good problem to have, and at the end of the year, we were able to really fill people's boxes with some fresh produce. So you see here those final bullets, people that we serve, people that are receiving SNAP benefits, senior citizens. And then I did forget to mention that one of the main things that we wanted to do was remove that access barrier. And we started delivering boxes weekly to individuals' houses. So we would do that for the people that received their free share, and the subscribers, because they all were at the time basically working at Caris Health, we were able to set up in their parking lot, and then the employees were able to come out, get their boxes, and go home after they were done working. So it worked out really well, and it really took away from that access piece that we were looking to address. And then, of course, the affordability kind of is self-explanatory there. We made a couple of discounted rates for our subscribers because, as you can think about, whether or not you have money, like $600 to $800 is a lot of money to be putting towards something in one big chunk. So we've broken it down so people can make payments monthly. We've made a cheaper rate so that we can be competitive with other CSAs in our area. I think there's only one or two, but really our goal is not to make money on this, and I really want to hit home with that. We care about sustainability, but this is our passion project. We don't care if we get paid. We want kids to have opportunities to keep working, and we want to strengthen the community by creating some of these, like helping as much as we can with people to have enough food for their families. So moving on here, just a few slides left. The funders, here's all of our funders, or I should say the majority of our funders for our youth garden. And if you have these programs in your community, definitely reach out to them, whether or not you're doing a youth garden or something like it. If you're doing anything with kids, that's really what funders like to see. So please use this list, even if you are in Minnesota, or if you're in Wilmer watching this and you want to start dipping into the same pot, please do it. These are not secret, and they are that's what they're there for. So please use them. And then our partners and friends, we can't say enough about all of our partners and friends. The one at the bottom there I really wanted to talk about here the last few minutes is that the Salvation Army is where I became a Getting Ahead facilitator. And so I've been a Getting Ahead facilitator for 3 years. And in my first year, I saw these direct connections between Getting Ahead and what Abdweli, Ben, and myself were talking about. So we were able to really, while I was at work, not only was I doing the work and connecting with folks through Getting Ahead, but I was learning a lot from Getting Ahead myself, and then taking these lessons that I learned and was able to incorporate them into our programming. So the Salvation Army is a huge partner for us, and we continue to work with them here on this day. So it was actually someone by the name of Captain Linda Faye Jones who gave me the opportunity to work with the Salvation Army and really make this Getting Ahead program into something special here in Wilmer. And yeah, I know she's also a facilitator. So Captain, if you're listening, thanks for checking it out. So here's some next steps on these webinars. You never know, and I'm not saying these specific AHA process webinars, but in any meeting or in any webinar, you never really know what to do afterward. So I wanted to throw out just a few things on how you can make a difference here by taking action. And the biggest part is where you spend your money. If you are able to support CSA programs like MNyou or others in your community, they're doing some really incredible work and trying to keep it local. I'm a big believer in keeping and shopping and buying everything local if possible. So yeah, you can see, know what you buy. The average meal travels 1,500 miles from farm to the supermarket. And this is a little bit of a side note, but it is something that MNyou is working on next, is that in the Wilmer community, we have a large population of Somali individuals, and and most everyone that we've talked to love goat meat. And it is challenging to get fresh goat meat in our community. So right now, Abdueli actually owns his own little grocery store in downtown Wilmer. And the goat meat that he is getting right now comes from Egypt. So it's not easy. And it's not like you can go run out to the farm, get some have somebody or buy some goats, take them to the slaughterhouse and get them taken care of. That sounds so bad, but you know what I'm trying to get at here is that it's not like you can just run down to the farm, get these animals, and then have fresh meat to sell the next day. Right now, the way things are set up is that the meat is coming from Egypt, so it doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem fair that it takes that long for meat to get here, and by then it's obviously not fresh. So we're hoping that in the future, again, something else we don't know very much about, but we're willing to dive in if it means better living conditions or better lives overall for the folks in our community. So next time I'm doing this, it might be about the cool goat program that we have coming out in the near future. As you can see on the bottom, this is the fundamental belief for myself, my friends, Ben and Abdueli, and then everyone we work with. Everyone has a right to healthy food. And by giving people healthy food, I don't know, they're able to develop all of these other resources because they're able to take away, they're able to address one of their main issues in whether that's maybe their physical or mental health or something like that. But if we're able to address a couple of those resources in a way that is effective and they don't have to worry about it anymore, they're able to take a look at some of these other resources and work on building those as well. So everyone has a right to healthy food. That's really the drive we're making here in our community, and we're hoping to make some policy change here in the next couple of, well, you know how it works. It might be the next couple of years. The final slide here, or I should say second to final slide, questions. I know you can't ask me any right now, but if you would like to reach out to me, if you have any questions, here's how you can do it. You can go and send us an email at mnyouyouth@gmail.com. You can look us up on Facebook, and we're trying to be better about using social media. None of us, this is all of our part-time jobs. We all have full-time jobs on the side. So we take to Facebook when we can. We all have it on our phones though, so we'll get a notification if you send anything to us. And then on Instagram, that's definitely the one we're worst at. So I would recommend email or Facebook. And then if you want to email too and want to have a phone conversation or a Google Hangout, I'd love to chat with you as well. So with that, my name again is Nate Erickson. It's been lovely to be here with you all, and I hope that hearing this idea will spark some inspiration in you to see that if three guys with no background or really no background in gardening or vegetables or food production, if three of us can do it, you can do it. So please, I'm excited. Share your ideas with me. I would love to partner in any way that we possibly can. Thanks.